as a method participation for young people. And as you probably heard now, we're recording this event. And the reason is because we want more people to be able to hear about the experiences that our amazing guest speakers and panelists will share with us soon. My name is Sanna Gottby, and I work at Digitum Lab, a democracy lab based in Sweden. We help municipalities and public institutions with participatory processes. And I'm very excited to be here with you guys. What I wanted to say is that feel free to ask any questions that you have in the chat. We'll start with a couple of presentations from Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Sweden, experiences of doing youth participation. And then we're gonna have a panel where we're gonna try to integrate your questions into the panel as well. So don't forget to keep asking your questions there in the chat. This event is funded by the Nordic Ministry of Councils, and we're going to have Helen Nilsson with us that's going to speak a bit about their experience. She's the director of the Nordic Council of Ministers office in Lithuania, and so she's going to introduce a little bit. So welcome, Helen.
Thank you. Tack så mycket. Good morning to all of you. So on behalf of the Nordic Council of Ministers office in Lithuania, it's a pleasure for me to participate in the opening of this regional event, engaging youth in decision making. So as already mentioned, this event is supported by us, the Nordic Council of Ministers, the official body for intergovernmental cooperation for Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, as well as Greenland, the Faroe Island, and Åland Islands. The office in Lithuania has been around for 30 years, so it's an anniversary year for us this year. And if we talk about the international cooperation interlinked with the Nordic Council of Ministers work, we have a very big focus on the Nordic-Baltic cooperation. So I strongly believe that the project we support, engaging youth from the Baltic Sea region into decision-making through participatory budgeting, is making the voice of the young people in our region, Nordic-Baltic region, louder and clearer. It is very important for us as an organization. The Nordic Council of Ministers works to protect and to promote the right of children and young people, and to provide opportunities for them to exercise these rights and participate in the society. Participatory budgeting is also something that Nordic actors are exploring more and more, and I'm sure you will hear more about it today. And one prominent project I would like to mention is the My District project, which is part of a larger project for democracy called Better Reykjavik. So initiated by the city of Reykjavik in Iceland. In the My District project, each district has a budget to carry out small-scale projects that is submitted and voted over by the citizens. As a result, as one of the results, I should say, the majority of the city's population participating in shaping local policies. I also would like to mention Swedish-Norwegian cooperation between the municipalities of Uddevalla and Fredrikstad, and they have also cooperating in making a manual of municipalities officials on how to create the dialogue with the citizens, and participatory budgeting is a central method applied there. Several projects on budgeting has been carried out in the two municipalities. As an example, already in 2009, in Fredrikstad, when youth were invited by the city to propose how to spend about 20,000 euros on a project for youth. 61% of school children in the city voted, and it resulted in a so-called LAN party, a large gathering where kids were bringing their own computers and played multiplayer games together. And so it is crucial to exercise the right of people to participate at the decision making starting from early age, I do believe. School is the best environment to show pupils that they are part of the community, not only by learning subjects or various subjects, but also having a voice on the school's direction as an organization. Participate in budget activities extend this trust to young people. It can look as if it's a small step sometimes, but I do believe it's very important steps to create the feeling that you can make a difference and that you are listened. This feeling is fundamental for any healthy democracy trust-based society. Of course, there are some challenges when we talk about participatory budgeting, like how we can be more persistent and not only project-based, how to find more resources to allocate to, if I may say, proper budgeting, convince economists as well as encourage politicians to support and advocate these initiatives in order to scale up the proper budgeting in different sectors of our society. I do believe the aim of today's event is to better understand what lessons projects partners from Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and Sweden learn along the way, as well as how we can hear the voice of young people even louder and clearer in the future. Having said that, thank you so much for your attention, and I wish all of us a fruitful event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Helen, for those great introductory words. And now that we're also curious about hearing these concrete examples that you've been talking about of seeing the effect of participatory budgeting. So we have 4 exciting concrete initiatives with us today from 4 different countries that are gonna talk a bit more about their experiences. And then later we're gonna have a discussion where we can share the differences and the similarities between these experiences in these different local contexts. And first out, we have with us from Gothenburg, Sweden, Clara Andersson and Victoria Trygg. Clara Andersson works as a process leader for School as an Open Arena in the city of Gothenburg and has worked as a project leader for the participatory budget in Lundby. Victoria Trygg works with democracy issues for the city of Gothenburg and has a long experience with working with inclusion and empowerment, and was also part of the participatory budgeting process in Lundby last year. So welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. And we're going to talk about our process in Lundby, a part of Gothenburg. And the PB is called Din idé. It translates to your idea. And it's a strategic and innovative collaboration between the municipality, housing companies, and the schools. So our PB, Din idé, is a unique collaboration. It's a participatory budget run as a partnership between the municipality, the city of Gothenburg, a community school, which I'm going to talk a little bit more of soon, and the local housing companies to work together to reach different arenas where children, young people, and adults are active in the local area. And the aim is to strengthen community, safety, and commitment in the area around the specific school called Bjurslättskolan. Din idé is a collaboration between the city of Gothenburg, a public housing company called Familjebostäder, and the private housing company called Stena Fastigheter, and the umbrella organization for several housing companies called Fastighetsägare Centrala Hisingen, FCH. And we have Pernilla Hallberg with us from FCH today, and she's going to participate in the panel. So if you have any more specific questions regarding the housing company's role in this process, feel free to ask her questions later on. So as I mentioned, we have a community school with us in this process, and maybe you heard about that work before. It's a way of work that we have in Gothenburg as well, but we call it School as an Open Arena. And it's a way of work to create a more equal living conditions for children in Gothenburg, because Gothenburg is a segregated and unequal city. And the school has a job to compensate for differences that children brings with them. And in this picture, I'm sorry for the Swedish words here, but hopefully the pictures can help you understand a little bit, and I'm gonna talk about it as well. But the school has a compensatory job, but they can't do it alone. And it's important that the work of the teacher in the classroom is protected. And that's why we can work together with other actors in the compensatory job to compensate for inequality. And there are, as you can see, many actors that want to be involved and contribute to improve and develop the area in which they operate, both financially and with other resources. And we have, for example, activities before and after scheduled classes, some like breakfasts. We have culture and sports activities, parenting supports. We have the social services that can come to the school and provide information about their services. We have the civil society and the public sector, and of course the housing companies that we have worked with in this PB.
And here we have our process and some results from it. As you can see, our process was quite short, from September to November. And we started with submission of proposals, and then there were proposals were proceed. And we also had a campaign week. And you can see on the picture, there are children who joined the campaign week, and they made posters for the proposal Among Us, who are a game which you can play on your cell phone or on your computer, I think, as well. And after this campaign week, this was a vote on the proposals. And now this year, we have the implementation of the winning activities and also doing an evaluation. And the budget was 150 Swedish crowns, which are around 15,000 euros. And everyone living in the area could vote on this or come with proposals. And it was for both children and adults. The theme was social activities. And some results here, the participants were between 5 to 78 years. And it was over 80 ideas that we received. And seven of the winning ideas are we doing now to implementation in our implementation. And you can also see these pictures from a preschool. The children made a picture. They wanted to go to the theater with their families. That was their proposal. And some of the benefits of our PB model. We reach out to the children in many different areas because we have so many to collaborate together. For example, the school, the residential area, spare time activities. And also many teachers have thought that this was been a good way of working with the school's democracy mission. And you have a quote here from a teacher who say, "It was easy to include the pupils. The participatory budgeting is a tangible way to show that their voices are heard and that they can make a difference." And because we work together, collaborate with many actors, one actor can be a bridge builder to the others. If a child or a parent, for example, had confidence in the school can be a bridge builder to create trust in the municipality. And there was also a joint knowledge about the area, the knowledge about the needs that existed. For example, I will give you an example in bicycles. There were many suggestions for different cycling activities in the area. You could see it on the proposal. The children wanted to learn to ride a bike, learn how to repair a bike, go on bike adventures. But we also saw that many children couldn't afford to buy a bicycle. Although none of this proposal won, this showed the need in the area. So we were talking together, all the actors in this, and now we have what to do about all these needs we saw. So this summer we have cycling activities for all the children in the area. You can learn to ride a bike, to repair a bike, and also go to bike adventures. So this is also an example how you can pick up different needs in the area and do something about them together.
And of course, we also faced some challenges. We had a digital platform, Dissidem, but we received much more paperwork than we expected, although we had the digital platform. So next time we're gonna work much more with the digital platform together with the Digidem Lab, and also provide like iPads and so on when we have the physical events. We also struggled with involving the adults, but that's mainly because of the COVID-19 restrictions. So hopefully next time we will be able to reach out to them more. There are also a language barrier because at the specific school, Bjurslättskolan, there are about 60 different languages spoken. And this, of course, makes it difficult to communicate with not so much with the children, but with the parents about various issues. And the PB is, of course, one of them. So you have to think about different ways to communicate with the, for example, non-written communication like pictures and so on. And the last thing is involving people with disabilities. The PB process, as you know, can be abstract and a bit difficult to understand if you have, for example, an intellectual disability. So we need to work on different ways to present the PB in order to include and involve more children next time. And that is also one thing that we're going to focus on together with Digidem Lab. And we did actually think about this on this first round, and we were creating one example that we're going to show you. And it's a dance made of sign language, which explains the different steps in the PB process. So that's one way to communicate the process in a more inclusive way. So we're going to end this presentation by showing you this dance where children are dancing the Din idé dansen, your idea dance. So thank you very much for listening, and feel free to ask questions in the chat and the panel later on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Clara and Victoria. That was super interesting. Love the video at the end. I saw that we already had a question about the role of the housing companies, and Pernilla will talk about that in the panel, but also like Clara said, if you have other questions regarding this specific case, feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll answer. Now we're gonna move to another location. We're gonna move to Estonia, and we have with us Kadri Org, who works as a democracy expert in the Estonian Cooperation Assembly, where she focuses on participatory democracy work. And since last year's Transparency International Estonia and Cooperation Assembly have cooperated to give Estonian students the opportunity to have real life democracy experience by doing PB in their schools. And that's what Kadri is gonna talk about now. Really exciting. Welcome, Kadri.
Hello, everyone, and thank you And yes, I'm gonna talk about the first ever coordinated participatory budgeting in Estonian schools. To begin with, we started our project with an open call to all Estonian schools to join the pilot project. And we were actually a little bit hesitant at first that which schools gonna join, how many of them gonna join. But that was unnecessary because we called out at least two schools to join, but 4 schools wanted to join the project. And of course, we find the opportunity to include everyone. And these all schools which joined the project were actually really different from each other in terms of geographical location, students' age, the language, what they speak in home, etc. So we had Rapla Gymnasium. This is a school 50 to 60 kilometers away from the capital. In a smaller town, and the whole school participated. In this school, there's 10th till 12th grade students who are 17 to 19 years old. The other participant was Tallinna Rahumäe Primary School. That was the only capital school, but there only 6th graders participated because there was a teacher who had social classes with them. But because it's a huge school, so there was 3 parallel classes of 6th graders, which in total were more than 100 students. Then third participant was Keeni Primary School. This is a school in southern of Estonia, in a small village, and the whole school participated. Students are from the 1st grade till the 9th grade, so from 7 till 16 years old, everyone were participating. And then 4th one was Tartu Annelinna Gymnasium. That's the 2nd largest city in Estonia, the school there. Participants from 5th till 12th grade, so from 11 to 19 years old. And this school is special because their students' home language is actually Russian, but in school they learn also in Estonian, so they are using parallel languages, and they are integrating these two language systems. And of course, the teachers and the school other workers were participating, but these were the student profile. So the quick overview of the process, how we did it. When schools told that they would like to join, we had the meeting where we discussed the details and forthcoming plans, how big is the budget, what the schools is offering to the students to decide, what are the dates for the whole project, and so on. Then students filled the pre-project survey. It was to measure the impact, what it had to the feeling of inclusion, how students see school democracy, and so on. Our Lithuania partners will afterwards share some results as well. Then we had workshops for the whole students. And the workshop was there was presentations. In the presentations, there were the school representative, for example, principal, who at first explained about the school budget, that where the money comes from, what are the expenses, how everything is actually in the school, how the money is coming and going. Then it was depending from the geographical location, because in Estonia, we have a really common practice that the municipalities are using participatory budgeting. So in places where it was a common practice, then also representatives from the municipality came to the students to talk about their experiences. And then also Transparency International made presentation about democracy and its relations to corruption. And me from Estonian Cooperation Assembly talked about digital literacy and digital tools and their relations to democracy. And workshops ended with the first idea collection. After that, the school put the date when students have to submit their ideas. Then the teachers analyzed the submitted ideas and gave feedback for the students to the ones which needed more work, which were potential, and also they gave mentorship for the students to develop their ideas even further. Then also students had democracy training. In Estonia, we have an NGO which is offering this kind of service. It's to train democracy muscles in a non-formal way. So how to collaborate, how to present your ideas, how to discuss with each other. So they got this training. Then it was disclosure of final ideas. And then students started campaigning and presenting the ideas to the school community. They had this open stage where they were defending their ideas. The other school peers were asking questions, why we should invest in your idea. So it was fascinating. Then they had voting. It was whether in physical way or in a digital platform, which was specially made for this project. But I'm gonna come back to this in a second. And then students filled the follow-up survey. And finally, there was a ceremony and the opening of the winning ideas. Because of COVID and things, our project went more to the spring as we actually planned. So in some schools, the winning ideas will be opened in the beginning of next school year. But all the schools got to find out which were these winning ideas. About the digital platform, which we made specially for this project, it's kaasavkool.rahvaalgatus.ee. You can find it out. It's in Estonian, but maybe Google Translate makes the justice. There are ideas what the students proposed, and they could also vote there. And why this platform is important is that, or this additionality in this project. In Estonia, we see as ourselves as an e-country. We have a lot of e-services, but oftentimes we take it digital skills for granted, and especially for youngsters, it's even in a simple way thought that youngsters are born with digital skills, but unfortunately it isn't the case, and it's actually really depending from the background of the students how literate they are in their digital skills. So we made a platform where they could vote with the same nationally recognized means what we are using in Estonia in our national local elections, also when you have municipality participatory budgeting. So these were these real digital tools what we are using also in our country processes, so that they would have a really real experience of this whole process. And for the end, a few illustrations and lovely examples what then students thought which are the places where to invest their school money. Firstly, when in a ceremony, also all the students and schools got this wooden awards, which say that active student is also active citizen. So it was a nice award. Here is one picture of the final result from Rapla Gymnasium. They had this ceremony where students were cutting the ribbon. And with this idea was actually a nice story, which shows also the transferable skills what this project gave. So in Rapla Gymnasium, they have a really nice green area behind the school where is a river, but they didn't have chairs there where to sit. So the students proposed the idea that they will have these nice chairs there. And they discussed with the school architect, and the architect recommended one specific company which is doing chairs in Estonian design, but these chairs are really costly. They had a budget for 1,000 euros, but actually you even can't get 2 chairs with 1,000 euros. And teachers encouraged students to go to the company and tell their story and ask for a discount. And the company was so pleased and happy for the students that they actually gifted 2 more chairs to the school. So it showed this collaboration and the discussion skills what the students also developed. The other idea in Rapla Gymnasium, 2 ideas. One was table tennis. So here again, ribbon, and they cut it out to give the tools to use. In Tartu Annelinna Gymnasium, also local newspaper made a story. That there was only one winning idea, air hockey table, and this arrived to school in last days of this school year. So it's in a box, but next in the beginning of the next school year, they will open it, and they are planning already tournaments and everything there. So it's something to wait when the new school year comes. And the last really cute story, Geeni primary school, where also students from the 1st grade were participating. For the teacher, for the school, for our surprise, where actually the 1st graders' idea was the one which won. And they are here with the 9th grade students' teacher, who was their mentor. And they made a proposal that the school should take bunnies or rabbits. And the other students thought that this is a good idea. So next school year we'll start with 2 additional members to Geeni primary school. And students have already made plans that classes will have, they have shared the weeks when which class will take care of these bunnies. They will feed them, they will take care of them. And nobody have to worry that where these bunnies will be when there is a school break, because one teacher agreed to take bunnies to her home when there is a school break. So that's all from me, and I'm already looking forward to panel discussion to discuss more about the influence what this whole project had.
Thank you, Kadri. That was super interesting. And like she said, she will be in the panel later. So if you have specific questions around what they were doing in Estonia, that will be answered more thoroughly in the panel. And now we have another interesting example to hear from Latvia. So we have Inese Taurinia, Executive Director at Transparency International in Latvia, that works with participatory budgeting and civic activities as a crucial way of a part of society and its future. And for that reason, in last year, they started implementing a PB project in 6 different schools. And we're going to hear about that exciting initiative now. So welcome, Inese.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here and share our story. I won't repeat actually what already we have heard before from previous case studies, let's say, because more or less, of course, if we talk about details, then yeah, the process also organized in our country with our participatory budgeting project was very similar. For example, we heard from Kadri. But let's move forward. I have less than 10 minutes, so I will try to do my best to be here. So sorry. Oh, some slide is not showing. So I put the English translation on our poster, but so it last year ago in August, we started our project and we named it, if we translate, Implement Your Idea in the School. And the subtitle was with co-voting, co-decision making, make sure that your idea become a reality. And this was our slogan, let's say, to talk and to communicate with the students and also teachers. We implemented the project thanks to a German embassy support, and it was, of course, very important. But what was the side effect, let's say, of that support was that we had to finish the whole project till the end of December. So we had to spend all the money, and also schools had to implement all the winning ideas, let's say, till the end of December, and that made quite a challenge for us. So I would like to share a little bit from the behind the scenes, given circumstances, what we had and where we found ourselves, let's say in last August. I took over the project from my colleague who was writing the project and had all the ideas how to do that. I had no idea what the participatory budgeting is and what to do with that, to be honest. But of course, it wasn't so bad. What we had late summer before the school year starts, we had to involve already 6 schools because, of course, we knew that we have only a couple of months to work on the initiative. We found the schools directly and we asked them to join the project. And of course, it was very important to find a teacher who is really interested to work on the project. We were not sure about COVID restrictions. Yes, school started normal, but in mid-October, the restrictions came in and the work went only to remote work. That was also a struggle for students, for example, in promoting their ideas before the voting process. As I already told, we had to implement everything and finish everything till the end of December. And we had no one has had before the experience with school participatory budgeting in Latvia. And with participatory budgeting initiatives in municipalities, we also had a little experience. Only one municipality has had that experience, and other one, also this one of the schools participated, another municipality were in the process to implement that. But that we were not afraid of those circumstances and moved forward. So we were 2 colleagues working on the project, and actually it kind of at the very beginning of the project, we understood that we have to develop clear communication and information for everyone, for ourselves, for teachers who were involved in the project, from schools, and for students. So we developed simple 6 steps. If we translate it in English, then we can see here as guidelines for, as I told, for ourselves, for teachers, for students. And I'm pretty sure that this very much and very good represents the process and also gives an understanding what is the participatory budgeting. So the first step, what to improve in the school. Yes, we gave guidelines for students, for teachers, that let's not think about every idea. Let's think about improving environment in the school for students, let's say. Then students developed the idea. Yes, due to COVID restrictions, we were not able to be involved as much as we have planned at the very beginning, but teachers did great work here. Yes, we organized a couple of seminars online. We were regular consultations with teachers, etc. Then students promoted their ideas in the school's community. Yes, it was a challenge, but they made videos, they made promotional campaign, etc. The fourth step was, it was second part of November, schools voted. We teamed up with another NGO who had the online voting tool where everyone, teachers, school personnel and students could log in with their unique login ID they are using for schools process. Students are using this login to see their homeworks and grades, and teachers, of course, organize the system so we use the same login information to set up this online voting tool. Then schools implemented the ideas, winning ideas, till the end of December, and at the very beginning of December, we shared the stories to an online seminar for everyone who are interested in. Let's move forward. We asked at the very beginning of the project many different questions to students. For example, one of the questions were, would you like to vote for the idea where the school should spend the money? 80% told that yes, they would like to be engaged in that process. We also asked at the very beginning and at the end of the project, like why a student should be interested and involved in the decision making about school's budget. And many answers we received, a couple of them here. So the answer was, so that each student knows how school's money is spent and can evaluate its use. And one more answer, the students were really happy sharing that I realized I can make a decision not waiting to grow up. And this, I think, pretty much shows the impact of and effect of school participatory budgeting. So what are our results? I have 3 minutes left. Actually, we developed, during the project, we understood that we have to develop guidelines. What is school participatory budgeting and how to implement that? We did that. This is a screenshot from the guidelines available printed and online in Latvian and Russian. And so results, 2 examples very shortly. In one school, the winning idea was to set up the lights you see in the picture to in the alley to the school, in the park, which is dark. Usually we had those dark winters and autumns. So, and when students started to actually work on the idea, the service company, where they asked to help, of course, for money, they understood, okay, but we need to do some extra work here, to, for example, to take off the old and dangerous lanterns here in the park. And the company did it on their own cost. We actually met this school a couple of weeks ago, and they shared the story that one of the ideas who were not voted as the top idea to create a podcast. Students created the podcast, and they already are a couple of episodes published, and they will continue their work on that. The second example is from totally another district of Latvia, and the winning idea was actually from the youngest students in the school to print the school basketball teams sports forms, and but 2 more ideas. Also, it was interesting process. The principal of the school decided, okay, I will try to find the money in our budget to make the training kitchen in the school. And the third idea was to set up recycling bins in the school so that students can recycle paper, plastics, etc. But that was not the winning idea. But when the local waste management company found out about such an idea, they did it on their own cost. Again, a new synergies came out. So this is the screenshot from the guidelines. And the effects to summarize. So new synergies, as I already mentioned in those couple of examples, schools are ready, teachers are ready, and the principals of the school are ready to continue the participatory budgeting in next years. And principals of the schools also acknowledge that they have a list of ideas they are planning how to implement, or as I already told, a couple of ideas already are implemented in the school, those ideas which came from the students. What's next? We are now this year, starting from May till December again, we are working on the next level, school integrity network, to develop that. Only online, only remote work. That's very important because all the schools, also from, let's say, deep regions, can participate. So that's very important. We found it very important. And so we see, we are at this point of time, we are attracting or inviting schools to engage in the project. We plan to have at least 20 schools. It seems that we will have some 30 schools, which will develop student engagement action plan, if I may say so. One-page action plan, including maybe school participatory budgeting. And from that, we plan that around 10 schools could implement participatory budgeting. If in this previous project I told you about, we managed to give co-funding to the ideas, 500 euros and another 500 gave school, then this year we can't do that. So the school has to find the money, whole money, 1,500 euros in their own budget. So we see this can be a little bit of challenge, but we already have ideas how to help schools on that. Therefore, it's less than all the schools involved. So this was very quick, not to waste your time, let's say, from my side, and I will be happy to answer your questions also in the panel and discuss more detailed our experience.
Thank you so much, Inese. All of these examples are so super interesting. I'm glad that we have a longer panel afterwards, so we get to really go in more into deep details. And now we have our last example before we have a short break and the panel starts. So we have with us Ieva Dunčikaitė from Lithuania. She leads various open data and political integrity initiatives at Transparency International, the Lithuanian chapter. She's also a big fan of participatory budgeting as a way to engage citizens into the open decision-making processes from an early age. So welcome, Ieva.
Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here and to share the experience of Lithuania. I understand we have a couple of more years stories to share since we started participatory budgeting in school 2 years ago. But overall, PB process in Lithuania started in 2018 with the municipalities in my hometown, somewhere in the south of Lithuania in Alytus. And by the end of last year, we had around a quarter, that is more or less 15 municipalities in Lithuania that already either implemented participatory budgeting or started the first steps towards it. So while I do wish for this map to be all blue in the upcoming few years, I also do believe that the true magic of participatory budgeting happens in schools. This is where actually the youngest citizens can not only learn and hear about transparency, about democracy, but actually practice it and be a part of it themselves. So having this idea in mind, we started thinking how to engage schools in participatory budgeting processes 2 years ago. And we had 2 small gymnasiums around the capital of Lithuania that decided to allocate 1,000 euros and 1,500 euros to students for them to propose ideas, to think and discuss how to make them the best ones, so all the community would support them and that they would be implemented at the end. So outdoor study space, gazebo, and sport equipment won for the first time. And those were the initiatives that we were able to implement live. We were going to schools. As you can see, the students were voting. We're very happy to win. Now we actually have more than 24 participatory budgets in Lithuania. I say more because in Lithuania we have 2 municipalities that also allocate some money to their schools to do participatory budgeting processes. Thus, I do believe that we could have even a few more logos on this map. And we do already have 4 schools that tried participatory budgeting at least twice. So when the pandemic hit us in Lithuania, we actually had to move all the activities online. And we were discussing with school administration, with teachers, whether it would be the same to include students, whether they will participate, especially in the schools that were thinking to try participatory budgeting for this first time. But as you see, the number of schools grew, and actually only the process moved online. So we also had the discussions. We mainly tried to use free online tools that were available for anyone, such as Mentimeter or Miroboard, Zoom that we are using today, to suggest the ideas, to kind of group them, and also to vote. So the whole process looked quite similar as we did it live, having 10 steps matrix that you can see in front of you. The most important thing is probably before starting to have the guidelines agreed with the school administration, to understand how much money could be allocated, what kind of ideas could be proposed, and also what could be the timing of the initiative. Mostly schools decide to have PB process for 2 or 3 months, and they say that it's the optimal time to implement such initiative. The rest of the steps were pretty much similar to other countries, but I would like to focus on the last step where we assessed the impact of the initiative. When we started PB, we didn't know whether it actually works and brings some changes to the school communities. When we did our live PB, we learned that it does bring more transparency. Students feel more included. The same questions arose when we went online and when we were doing participatory budgeting online. So we sent out the questionnaires before the initiative and after the initiative to students to understand how they felt during the process, but also whether anything changed afterwards. In Lithuania, we actually saw that students were more happy to engage into school activities. They knew better how to approach their administration, how to approach their teachers, and get involved in decision-making processes. And those were the results from online participatory budgeting. Also, our colleagues from Sweden and Estonia did the same exercise with the questionnaires. And we also see the change, the positive change, both in Sweden and Estonia. And here I would like to take a short stop and a short moment to say that in all 3 countries, we had different age groups. So in Sweden, we started from students actually in preschool. In Lithuania, we had from 5th grade, so it's from more or less 10 and 11 years old. And in Estonia, we even had those who are about to graduate. So the change of participatory budgeting was seen in all the age groups of students. And also there were some other positive changes. We also saw that almost a fifth more students in Lithuania understood the school budget well or very well after the participatory budgeting initiatives finished, because it was not only about allocating a part of the school budget, but also learning how the school budget is made, created, where the money goes, and understanding it way better. We saw pretty much the same increase also in Estonia. But I think most importantly is that students like participatory budgeting, and then they do want to be a part of it, a part of decision-making processes in school, and decide on how to spend a part of their school budget every year. Thus, finishing my presentation, I would like to leave you not only with the links where you can learn more about experience of Lithuania, of participatory budgeting in schools and even in municipalities, but also with the quote of one of the students from our last participatory budgeting online that said, "I would like for everyone just to try it out and see if they like it or not." So this is what I wish for everyone, and I hope when we meet next year, each of the countries can say that we doubled the number of schools and municipalities doing PB.
Thank you so much, Eva. That's very encouraging to hear those results. We did a lot of surveys at each of our schools, and it's so interesting now to hear the analysis that it's so many that feel it, that it's a very positive experience, even though we felt it as well when we were there physically at the school. So that's so interesting. Maybe that's also, we're going to dive into that more in the panel later, the effects that we've seen in the PB. So keep asking your questions as well. Don't forget. Now we're going to just take a short break until 10:05, and just, stretch the legs, drink some coffee, get some air, and we'll meet back and do the panel where you're going to hear more examples and in-depth details about these experiences. Also, the participants will be able to ask each other questions and share ideas as well. So see you soon, 5:10. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a nice break from listening to all of these interesting examples. There was a lot of information to take in, but now we're going to have the opportunity to deep dive into these examples more. And before we start with the panel, I'm just going to introduce two more people because Kadri and Inese you already know from their presentations, but we also have with us Pernilla Hallberg from Gothenburg, who works as an operation manager and process leader in the United Action Between Landlords in the district Centrala Hisingen in Gothenburg. And the aim for the Society of Landlords in Centrala Hisingen is to create a more livable and vibrant district in close collaboration with those who live and work in the area. And I saw that we also in the chat had some questions about the role of the housing companies. So Pernilla will represent that experience as well. We also have with us Davidas Petrolovicius, head advisor at Klaipėda City Municipality in Lithuania as head advisor for social projects. As an example, he is responsible for such projects as the European Youth Capital 2021 and also the PB in Klaipėda. So that's also super exciting. Nice to have you with us, Pernilla and Davidas. And I thought we would start off with the question of the impact that you have seen in doing these PBs, because the last thing we heard from the break was Yeva talking about this percentage impact that they'd seen in the research of how, for example, more students want to do school activities, more students know about the how their PB works. I'm sure that there's similar maybe impacts among tenants, for example, in housing companies. So I was wondering, is there anything that you've seen, both short term and long term, depending on how long you've been doing the PB, of course? Maybe we can start with Davidas.
Yes, so once again, hello everyone. It's hard to share my experience, our city experience, because PBs only started last year in our city, so it's still hard to compare to the impact. But first of all, I wanted to start that we have two different PBs in our city. I mean, we have the whole city participation budget, and we also have a school participationary budget. So we have 100,000 euros for a whole city PB, and we have planned 22,000 euros for school PBs. So we start talking about the school PBs. We started last year. Of course, the pandemic situation was really hard. The people didn't go to school, so everything had to go to online platforms. So we had many difficulties, but talking about the impact, well, I can only talk about what we hope, what do we expect, but it's still hard. I cannot compare because we just started last year. So talking about what we are willing to do during the participational budget. So in long term, we hope that participationary budgeting would allow citizens and our pupils to allocate resources that would increase people willingness to monitor public or school spendings. Also, it's a valuable tool to the education and empowerment of local communities and pupils in schools. It also allows citizens, we hope that it would allow citizens to identify, to discuss and prioritize public spending projects. And we hope that will give the power to people and the whole community to make real decisions about how money is spent and how we could increase the ownership of this participational budgets of the city. So, and of course, the literacy of students, democratic and economic knowledge, and I really hope that we could increase the relation between students and teachers in schools. So these are our hopes, and I hope we will reach these goals.
Yeah, we all hope so as well. It's going to be like Yevas, it's super exciting to see maybe a year from now when we meet again to see what impacts we've seen. Maybe Pernilla, you could give us some perspective from the housing companies. I know a lot of people had questions of what is exactly the role of housing companies, because it's kind of a unique experience that you have in Gothenburg. Maybe maybe give a bit context of what the housing companies do in terms of the PB and the role that you have?
Yes, nice to be here, and hello everyone. Yes, the condition about the property owners in the world differs, so it's always a difficulty to actually translate the possibilities. But in Sweden, we don't have a special form of social housing. Instead, we have chosen to have a quite vast public housing companies in every city that are steered by the municipality and with politics in different cities. Of course, we have that type in Göteborg also. So that's one difference, I think, between a lot of the rest of the world. And the other thing, I'm not sure if it's different, but it's an important thing for our involvement in the PBs. It's that in Sweden, the tenants has a lawful right to be part of decisions that affects their apartment. So every housing company, at least those who let out, is used to have dialogues with the tenants, and because of this history, the companies also have realized it's important to help the tenants to raise trust with the landlord, to the landlord, and between themselves, tenant to tenant. So it's easier to have a dialogue or a participatory process that actually can function as a democratic area, not in conflict with each other. And also it's important to have a role in actually to empower the tenants so they can be more equal to each other. So that's not one tenant that is very, very good in, for example, writing, and another isn't. So try to empower every tenant. And those two aims with the housing companies and the Swedish law, and yes, the administration in how we do the tenant and let out business, has led to that housing companies is quite used to have processes with their tenants in their own areas. But this time, the new thing was to actually go outside their own tenants' areas and the place and the market that the housing companies actually owned, and go outside and work with the area that the tenants said or believed were their neighborhood. And of course, a tenant's neighborhood is a different area than actually the owned area from the housing companies. So this was an aim or a special interest in participating in the PB for the housing companies, and it was a logically development to the work that the housing companies already did. And also the work with the school as an arena was important, because in one way the school as an arena would be the whole society nearby, but in the school. So in the afternoon and evenings, the parents or the companies or the landlords could be in school and do things. But of course, that goes vice versa. Also, the school as an arena could pour out to the society and take place in different areas in the society to reach parents, for example, and also elderly people to have a generation understanding from the smallest children to the eldest. So that was also those two things that actually made it possible, I think, to have the joint venture in the PB. Please feel free to ask more questions, because it's difficult to see in what way your housing companies in your countries function and works. And I know I have worked with student housing in the Nordic countries, and I know that it's really different how you see the accommodation, which responsibility do the tenants have. I think it's very interesting that it varies so much.
Yeah, it's very interesting. We know, for example, that in Paris, they have this social housing companies that are doing PB as well, but it's a different system. So also if the other panelists have reflections from if you work with housing companies, feel free to ask Pernilla as well. It's super interesting. Otherwise, I thought I would ask you, Kadri, because you showed us some pictures at the end of your presentation of some of the projects that were realized together with the students, and you said that you could already maybe see some type of impact in their like feeling of like wanting to do things, and is it something that you've wanted to talk a bit more about, maybe the impact that you've seen from your experience?
Yeah, sure. There are, I would say, three things what I saw as a close monitoring or coordinating partner for the school, because we, together with Transparency International Estonia, we took the role of coordinator, but actually the school, because we had also all the 4 schools were so different from each other, so they actually made this project fitting into their own context. So they actually, all these 4 projects what we had in Estonia were also really different from each other. But one thing what I saw in this short term, and about what were also teachers really fascinated, was that how much transferable skills actually this project gave to the students, that it was sounded simply like, let's make a participatory budget in school, and then we can practice democracy. But students got to practice their budgeting skills. Also, the students brought it out that at first it seemed a little bit like scary how to do it, how to like take different offers and calculate. But afterwards they said that actually it was really valuable experience. Also, how to collaborate with each other, how the groups form and who is taking the lead, how they negotiate with each other, with the companies, how they are also campaigning, also in schools. Some students made videos. So there was so many more things than just this voting part or this simple idea offering part. Then other thing what I would like to bring out is how school communities got stronger, especially one case with this small school in southern Estonia, in a village in Keeni. Their school decided that they will the mentor from the teacher's side will be to the students who are less connected with this teacher. So, for example, when there were first grade students, then their idea mentor was the 9th grade student's teacher. Otherwise, it would have taken years for them to connect with each other. But now they had an opportunity already now to start doing something together. And when they have 101 students plus teachers, then it really brought this school community together. And for the third thing, what I would bring out, and I believe that will be this long-term impact, is that when students see that their opinions and voice count, they are more encouraged to participate next time and on other levels as well. Because from the questionnaires, we actually made questionnaires in all 3 schools out of 4. In Lithuania, it was sent only one school questionnaire results, But everywhere from these questionnaires, it was seen that some students, especially the older ones, were initially more skeptical about this project. And they told that if this project will be next year, they are actually thinking about participating more. So I believe that this will be the long-term impact.
That's so amazing and cool to see that there's already some changes, shifts in the students that you can see, and doing it in such a short time as well. Just imagine what can happen, how we can transform a new generation of young people, right? Where they feel like they're empowered and that they have a decision-making power. And that's really cool. Is that something you've seen as well, Inese, in your experience in Latvia? Any effects that you've seen so far?
Yes, thinking about effects and what haven't been mentioned before, I would maybe put a little bit another angle. Also, we were thinking about this next level of what we are doing this year. So the let's say problem is that if we look at Latvia's data about what students, young people think about their ability, let's say, to affect decision making in their local municipality, then less than 20% of young people think that they can affect decision making in local municipality. And if we think in the long term, then another factor is that almost half of the population already lives in the capital or around the capital in Latvia. So the problem is that regions, municipalities, they will be left without young people. So our idea, let's say, is that in a long term, with this our school participatory budgeting initiative, and also what we are doing this year, not only thinking about participatory budgeting, but also to force, let's say, schools to think about how they engage young people, not on their students, not only in decision making in their school, but in the close environment in their municipality, that this can be as a long-term effect. That let's think that after the student finishes his university, maybe there will be higher percentage of those who will think that, okay, but maybe I can go back to my hometown and live there and do things there, because yeah, yeah, okay. So that's one idea what we see as could be as a long-term effect. Of course, it will take ages for us to prove that. But we think that with such an idea, it's also and such an initiative, what we will do this year also will be possible. And of course, our challenge is to find ways how we would be able to continue what we will start this year to continue also for next years, because and therefore we are looking in developing the close communication with institutions in the Ministry of Education, who are also working on how to engage young people in civic activities. So how we can develop these connections and how we help them to think from this point of view in the long term as well, so that we are not the only ones who work on that. That's one from my side at this point.
That's a really interesting perspective, actually, how you can make people stay in a region and not, like you talked about, it's a problem in Sweden as well, and in large parts of Sweden, I'm sure in all of our countries. So that's super interesting if you see any long-term effects of that. Actually, you started talking about challenges, so I'm kind of curious, all of the panelists, if you have any reflections of some of the struggles or challenges that you've seen in doing the PB. For example, Is there any groups that you feel haven't been as represented in the participation process that you're struggling extra hard in involving, or are there other challenges in terms of the mandate, the impact, things that you would like to improve for the next time that you're doing PB? Anyone that feels like, I want to answer this question.
Maybe I can quickly then continue and finish. Two things from at this point from us. One is about the money actually school can find, as I already mentioned before. Last year it was our opportunity to offer co-funding, though, so that helped a lot for schools to have this internal argument that yes, we can go for that, we can actually receive money for that. So, but this year, of course, it's impossible. So schools have to find the money in their own budget, or ask the head of the municipality or council of the municipality to allocate the money. But so this can be a struggle. We see that, but of course we already have a couple of ideas how to help schools. That's let's think it we will finish. And yes, and the second I forgot, sorry. Too hot maybe here, but if I will remember, I will then let you know. But yeah, schools and money, and let's see how it will go.
Just jump in if you remember I thought I saw David as you were getting ready to say something as well.
Talking about problems, the main challenge to implement PB in schools still is to convince school administrations that this is a paying off project. You know, even though our municipality gives the money to schools, school administrations are still thinking if it may pay them off, or is it a good project, or should they have more work to do in case to implement this PB initiative. So this is one challenge, and the other one is to maintain the principle of democracy in schools. I mean, it's not so easy to manage the situations so that all students would be involved in the process of providing ideas and of giving the votes for these ideas. So these two challenges in our system.
Yeah, thank you. Kadri, you were raising your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to add as well that I think Ines and David gave a really good overview of these different challenges, but one challenge which hasn't yet covered and what we saw, it's in terms of how to engage students that in Estonian schools, especially the older students, we saw that they were actually really overloaded with other schoolwork, final project, their training. Some of them even went to work, or they had so many other things to do. So it was for the school, we discussed with teachers that actually we had to, next time when to do it, you have to find really good timing when students don't have other final projects and things, so that they could have time and energy to put their effort into this participatory budgeting. And also one solution was to integrate actually this more to the formal studies. In our schools, it really depended. Some of them did it, some of them it was just this additional school project. But when students get also some grades for the effort they put into this project, then they are more encouraged also to give out more from them.
Yep. That's great advice for anyone that wants to try PB for the first time together with schools as well. Hopefully also what you were saying, David, as with convincing school administration that this project maybe will help in the long run by being able to show results and how it actually improves the conditions in the schools, that we can convince more schools that this is something that you should commit to. I know, for example, in Gothenburg, what we noticed was that there was a lot of teachers, like some teachers that were so passionate and really wanted to do this together with the class, and those type of teachers and like specific people, key people that can really engage, I think are important in the beginning, so that they can be positive examples for the rest of the community as well. I wanted to ask Pernille, if you, from the tenants' perspective, like, have you seen anything that you find extra challenging that you want to work with in terms of the PB?
Yes, actually, the PBs is not self-explained, and that's a difficulty, especially when the pandemic has been so difficult during our PB process. So we couldn't actually meet the tenants in a normal way in the courtyard or in the nearest square. So that was really a challenge to be able to get the information out that this is something for you, and also to make them see what type of IDs would be bona fide in the process. So that was a challenge. And it was also a challenge that it requires quite a vast organization when we do the process, because we saw we need to have people on the ground to talk to people and give out information, and also to be involving everyone. It was important to have people who could explain. And we saw the digital matureness in our area was perhaps lower than we anticipated, or perhaps we needed another type of information, because it was difficult to use the digital platform that actually would be great. With the pandemic, we would have had more ideas by that platform. So and also it's difficult in one way, because the participatory budget in Swedish, we translated the civil budget, and it's linked with your as an inhabitant in Sweden in one way, but also this was housing companies that were working with this. So perhaps it was a little bit difficult to explain what was our roles, different roles. But in this way, it was a civic budget, in the way that the politicians for the municipality or the local area had decided that they would run this process in Bjursletsskolan and the school of as an arena, and we were just cooperation partners, and of course we were in the steering group, but it was the politicians had said that this big things is needed to be in the PB. For example, it should be social events, and it would be including everyone, and those. So the housing companies, so we couldn't change the aim and goal. We could change the process, but not the aims and goals with the PB. But I think that was in my head, it was sometimes a little bit difficult to see how which soul, if this PB had. Is it an because you live here, or is it because you are an inhabitant? It's a strategical thing, but it was a little bit difficult in my head, at least.
That's understandable. You were so many different partners around one PB, but also that's why it's exciting, right? As well, because it's such a new way of collaborating with the schools, with the housing companies, with the municipality, with all of these different actors.
Yes, and I think that the short-term effects, actually, to see, we try this PB, and now it's important that it will be a process. So this is the first, and then we can switch and try and change the things that weren't functioning as we wanted to, and still have the focus as it will be a PB, but in the Gothenburgian way or the collaboration way, and see what we need to do. And I think that also will be a long-term effect if we can do it a couple of more years. And I think we will, because it's a lot of interest in our area to actually develop it more. So that's very interesting to see the short term and the long term. And the tenants now, I think it's the short term result. It's purely individual. So the tenant who has been a part of it, of course, it has happened something with that tenant, or even if perhaps they had an ID that were voted for, and one of the 7 that we will do, it will affect them, but it's individual, and if that individual is moving out of the area, that knowledge is moving out. So our aim is that it actually will be as many who has been in this process or affected by the process, so it stays in the area even though people move out, if you can understand how I mean. So it's a cultural thing in this area that we do those things. But of course, that's a long term to reach out in that way.
Yeah, that's great that the city is committed to doing this again. Ines, that I saw you raise your hand.
Yes, I wanted to comment maybe on what resonated for me, what Pernilla was talking about. Our challenge was the first part of the project also to the risk we saw in the first part of the project was that teachers, and kind of ourselves as well, our perception about this participatory budgeting initiative was that it's a project competition where you can get money. And this was like at this tiny line we should switch and we did it in our communication with teachers, with schools, and also in our communication from our side, that it's not about having money for your ideas. It's not that competition. It's a process where you can have your vote, have your idea being implemented, have your participation in the decision-making process, have your participation in the following up how the money in the school is spent, etc. So this was also the important part actually we saw as at the very beginning as a challenge, but then of course, since it was the first project for us, but of course we managed to frame the communication to highlight those issues which are important in this participatory budgeting idea as such.
That's so interesting that you say that, because I'm just like reflecting we're in this research project with the University of Helsinki, and as you know, probably Helsinki is doing a very big budget PB, both in the city as well as in schools, and we were discussing how this is such a common thing in PB in the beginning, that there's this competition feeling that it's individuals' proposals against other individuals' proposals, because probably that's what citizens are used to. Like, they apply for funding for projects and they're not used to this idea of co-creation, collaboration. And that's one of the trickiest things to change, right, in participation culture, that this is something for our community. We as citizens, it doesn't matter if it's my project or your project, it's for our community. How can we create this type of collaboration? And I'm kind of curious, because we talked a bit about the fact that we were in the middle of a pandemic, but not so much. And I'm curious how you see that has affected your processes, because then people can't meet and deliberate in the same way that, the aim of PB is. And you all used digital platforms in different ways, or online tools. And I know that you mentioned a little bit, Pernilla, how that you were surprised that there weren't as many as you thought that were engaging online. Is that something you've seen as well in the other cases when it comes to online engagement? Like Kadri, you were showing your platform. For example, how did you feel about the online engagement process in your example?
Yeah, in our case, actually, finally, only one school which had older students could use it. Because of the pandemic, we had actually like from November till end of April, I guess some part of May as well, we were totally locked down. The students didn't went to school. And I guess we actually, like all the schools, were really fascinating and ready to use it. But as we had younger students in other schools and in these schools where they really wanted to end the project within this school year, so they made it this voting process really fast in a class in a physical form. The older ones who used the platform, they felt that it's good, everything went well. But in our case, like I also already before I brought out that we use this nationally recognized means. In our Estonia, we have a law that when you are 15 years old, then it's mandatory to have a digital identity. So then you have to have ID cards or and all these digital means. But of course, students can have it before 15. They get 15 as well. But as the younger students would have needed more support from the teachers, but teachers didn't have an opportunity to be in contact with them in this contact lessons. So that's why finally the solution was that one school used it and other 3 schools didn't. But as all the 4 schools were really excited to use it, the participatory budgeting also next year, then they all told that next year when they can be in contact studies, then they would like to use it. And also like here was a question about it, that we made this portal especially for this project, but it won't stay only for the project. It will be this open source for all the schools in Estonia. If they want to use it for PB or the other projects where they need the same tools, then we are really open to let us use it.
That's really great. Is there anyone else that has any reflection on the online engagements doing PB online?
I can continue. Yes, as I already mentioned, yes, we also had the situation when we were in the middle of the project and the schools went online. Of course, it was a struggle, but we were not. Of course, we already had the experience from the spring, and we had to a little bit sit down, think about our solutions, and that's it. And I'm pretty sure we managed to do. Why? Because in larger part of the schools, it was, as Kadri mentioned already, it was teachers involved this participatory budgeting implemented in the school program, in the economics or politics or some other activities, lessons they are doing. So that was like the easiest part, therefore, to follow and not to lose it. But the effect of that actually was, again, thinking about this year's project, as I mentioned, we decided to do it only online. No physical meetings. Why? Because we see that this is very important opportunity for municipalities and schools in regions to be involved in the project. And this was about the argument I was commenting a couple of minutes ago about this very low level of young people who are involved or would like to be involved in the decision making in local municipalities. So we are looking forward that we will actually, with this experience in the first project, we can do it in better like quality and approach with this year.
That's great. I have a question for you, David. That's because if for example, in the case of Gothenburg, the municipality is really interested in like supporting all of the platforms that all of the PB processes, basically having a central platform where you can support all PB processes in the same place. I know that in Helsinki, they are doing that as well, like trying to centrally support schools, for example. And since you represent the municipality, I'm wondering how is your experience in terms of working digitally with PB or supporting the actors, municipal actors in their PB processes online?
Well, as I mentioned at first, we have two different PBs, and we have created a platform, online platform for whole city PB, where all inhabitants in Klaipėda could set up their ideas. I wanted to mention that this whole city PB project is for people from 16 years old. So people also have a chance to participate in this project. So we have such a platform where people can set up their ideas, and it is called Console. And the good thing about this platform is that it was created by our community. By our community, and it was free of charge. So I think this was one great example of how community can collaborate with the municipality. But talking about schools public participationary budgeting, we didn't have a platform for all schools. We had 4 schools who participated last year, and every school had a chance to improvise, had a chance to make to give young people had a chance to make votes, give their votes in Google Docs or Facebook or other platforms. It depends on every school and the way they choose. But nobody knows, maybe in the future we'll create a new platform for people as well.
That's really interesting that you're using Console, right, in your city. Yeah. That's also an open source platform that we know that's been used in a lot of cities. So that's pretty interesting. Is that, by the way, something? Because in Gothenburg, it's Decidim, so it comes from Console, but it was created as its own platform. It's also an open source platform. Are your platforms as well, like the Estonian one? Is it also open source? Is it something that others can use if they're interested, for example?
Yeah, it's open sourced.
Great.
Yeah, and they also, I mean, how it's programmed. So it's all like the programmers can take it and actually put their own system up.
That's amazing. I'm checking if there's any additional questions in the chat. If anyone has, if there's something that you want us to cover that we haven't covered, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Is there anything you panelists want to add that you feel like this is something that you really want to say that you haven't been able to say? We've talked about a lot of topics, covered a little bit of everything. So
perhaps just to emphasize that to build trust and rise empowerment is important throughout the society. And I think that the housing companies has a big role in this, because they are actually in a cooperation between the tenants and the housing companies. So I think it's actually important to see how you can engage the housing companies nearby the schools. And I think it's quite different to work within the school or with the school and the area around it, because it's a lot of different cooperations possibilities. And in Göteborg, we didn't have any other of the companies. It could be Volvo, for example, that is nearby, but we didn't have any cooperation with someone else than the housing companies. But yes, I think my main task in this is that the housing companies, it has a role for build trust and empowerment with the citizens, and it would be interesting to see how you in your country could develop a model that function in your country to actually engage the landlords.
Yeah, maybe we should do like a separate event about creating strategies for landlords. It would be pretty interesting. I'm really looking forward to follow all of your processes. I feel like I learned a lot just from hearing you speak more about your experiences, and I'm really excited about continuing to exchange experiences as well as with you participants that have been listening. If I've seen a lot of people write in the chat experiences from Poland, for example, something that we can continue build on. Because this, everyone wants the same thing, right? We want to empower youths in the world. So it's great with these kind of events that you feel like you're not alone. There's so many people working with this. So that for me, that's really exciting. I want to thank you all, the panelists and the presenters that we heard before. Thank you so much for your great experiences and thoughts. Also, I wanted to say that in the chat, you can see that we've added a survey. Maybe you can post it again, because you have to scroll up a bit to see it, but it's a link to Menti, where you also have to write a code. So you enter Menti, the link in the chat, and then you write the code, and then you just give your opinion about the event. It could be interesting to hear from you guys. They just posted the link here again, so feel free to go into the survey and give your feedback for us. It's good for the future when we organize more events like this. Hopefully we'll be able to organize an event where we can all meet in person as well, and get to hear more from you guys, the participants as well. I'm sure that you also have a lot of experiences on this topic. So thank you all. Also want to say a last thank you to the Nordic Council Ministers again. And thank you, Helen, who participated in the event as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.